Some of them just like to go to a gun range and feel like a real man, because they obviously don't in their regular life. So they have to go to a gun range and shoot AR-15s.
Welcome to this week's Wacky Moments of Leftist Extremism. There was a tragic shooting in Nashville this week by a violent transgender. And while the leftist media covered the incident breathlessly throughout the day, they did have some difficulty by the afternoon, dealing with the fact that once again we have a transgender mass shooter. It's almost like they didn't want to mention that very important fact.
Tonight, a targeted attack in Tennessee, a scene that has become all too common in America, a mass shooting, this time at a private Christian grade school in Nashville. We've just learned more about the 6 victims, the 3 children, all 9 years old, the 3 adults in their 60s. One of them, Catherine Kuntz, was the head of the school. The other adults, a substitute teacher and a custodian. Well, tonight, police have identified the shooter as a 28-year-old woman who previously attended the school and left behind a manifesto.
Nowhere does Norah O'Donnell mention the word transgender. And she's not alone. Between Monday night and Tuesday morning, the newscasts on ABC, CBS, and NBC spent roughly 65 minutes on the Nashville shooting, but only had 11 mentions over 6 newscasts that the shooter was transgender. Tuesday's CBS Morning News never mentioned that the woman was identifying as a man. As you can see by this tweet, the leftist media was very concerned about how authorities identified the shooter because you must use the correct pronouns for the screwed up killer.
So the police are identifying the shooter as a trans woman, it would actually be a trans man. So there's sort of a misidentification there, but this is all new. I'm just wondering, the identity of being a transgender person and also being identified as a woman, does this pose any sort of difference or difficulty for police, because it's not typically a woman, regardless of how they're identifying? So there are a couple of things here that are different and that we are going to have to talk about and delve into.
And this is a unique case, and we have to be sensitive about it to the extent that Audrey Hale identified as a woman.
Well, at least Don brought it up. Sunny Hostin of The View didn't want to bring up gender dysphoria and other mental issues because, well, surprise, she comes from a family history of mental issues.
I have so many mentally ill people in my family. They are more likely to be the victims of crime than be criminals. That is a fact, and it has been studied in this country for over 60 years. So I'm so sick of people conveniently saying this is a mental health issue, or you can't look at this issue without mental health. This is an AR-15 style weapon issue.
And that was far above the commentary that was available on MSNBC, where once again, we're treated to the man who believes he's the most macho guy on the planet. Macho Joe Scarborough swaggered about his manhood again. Scarborough mocking men who own AR-15s.
Weapons of war. And why do they have those weapons of war? Some of them just like to go to a gun range and feel like a real man, because they obviously don't in their regular life. So they have to go to a gun range and shoot AR-15s.
Yeah, the epitome of manliness. Joe Scarborough, the man who mocks the baseball throws of other men.
The way he should, and it's a weird sort of weight shift that he...
The man who dreams of threatening tourists.
You know, I'd stop and say, hey, Inspector Clouseau, put the camera down or I'm going to make you eat it.
Oh, I'd love to see him try. Joe is so anti-gun, instead of focusing on the mental illness of transgenderism, he placed the blame on Christmas cards.
Well, members of Congress put their little children on Christmas cards that have AR-15s there.
MSNBC even used the tragedy to falsely claim that hundreds of thousands of lives have been lost to gun violence in schools.
We're talking in the hundreds of thousands of lives lost because of gun violence, and gun violence specifically in schools.
The data that she's using is from the Washington Post, and it shows that there has been 200 deaths, which is far too many, but not nearly the...
We're talking in the hundreds of thousands
that she lies about and claims occurred. All right, let's end this with a laugh, because we actually need one this weekend. Trump was indicted Thursday evening. Not funny, but Governor Ron DeSantis tweets that the Soros-funded Manhattan DA is stretching the law to target a political opponent. And he says Florida won't cooperate with any extradition of Trump. So cue MSNBC's Joy Reid and her meltdown.
Perhaps this governor should maybe read a history book to speak, because he might not understand what he is channeling. But he is channeling an era in American history that is one of the most ugly, that he's probably not allowing to be taught in school. But that idea that this prosecutor, and by the way, it's not just this prosecutor, Andrew, and I'll let you go on this and let you have a final word on it. It was a grand jury that looked at facts, that looked at evidence, and this grand jury took a vote, which is part of our system. And so for the governor of one of our largest states and most important states to throw out a miasma of words.
Talk about a miasma of words. What the hell was that? Mentioning the fact that the DA is funded by Soros brings us back to the 1950s. She doesn't mention Larry Krasner, George Gascon, and all the other leftist white DAs that have been criticized for taking Soros money. No. This is definitely racist.
Throwing out, as you said, Andrew, dog whistles.
It's evident that when you look at the legal system and the media, there's one set of rules for Republicans and a different set of rules for Democrats. It used to be you were innocent until proven guilty. But that's just not true if you're a member of the GOP. Just ask media darling Nancy Pelosi. Yeah, Trump has the right to trial to prove innocence. That's not the way it's supposed to work. But Nancy's used to things working her way. And I'm sick of it. Aren't you? I'm Eric Shiner for MRC-TV, asking you to head over to the MRC homepage, hit that donation button to keep videos like this one coming. Visit MRCTV.org for the latest in videos, information, and entertainment. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe to these on the platforms that let you see us. You are missing something this week unless you have followed us on Rumble. I can tell you that. We'll be back next week with another look at leftist media madness.